Hey, welcome to Drive Time. Let's dive straight in. I was chatting with some people on the weekend about real estate, and everyone keeps asking me, when should you invest in real estate, what timing, all that sort of stuff. Well, before we get into that, let's get into why invest in real estate. I mean, it blows my mind that people still don't understand this about money. When you understand money, money works for you. If you don't understand money, you work for money. It's not that complex. But what happens with real estate is several things that make it a vital part of your portfolio, okay? So the job of your business, as you know, I teach you have a business for cash flow, and real estate is where you invest the majority of your passive style money, okay? Now, number one reason to invest in real estate, okay? And it is the simplest, easiest thing to understand. You pay for 20% of it. You never pay for more than 20% of the property yourself, okay? Now, what does that mean? If I buy a $100,000 house, I put down a $20,000 deposit, okay? So I put down 20% of the value of the property. Now, if I buy correctly, which again, you got to read and study and learn all these things, but if I buy correctly, then the mortgage is going to be paid for, and the costs are going to be paid for out of the rent of the property. So 80% of the value of the property is paid for by someone else, your tenants, over a 20-year period if you take my suggested time frame. Sometimes you can do it in 15 years, sometimes you got to do it over 25. But usually it's about a 20-year period that over that time the tenant will pay for 80% of the value of the deal. Oh, thanks for reminding me, Karen, for typing in where you're at. Azim, thanks for typing in where you're at. Everybody, when you join Drive Time, you type in where we're at so we know where we're going on the drive. So type that in right now and give me an idea as to where we're driving. I want to make sure we hit all the continents on this drive. If you're in Europe, type it in right now. Let me know where you're at. So the 80% factor is massive, okay? Now, let me just explain that just for a second. If someone pays for 80% of an asset, that means you get a 400% return. You put in 20%, they pay for 80%, you get a 400% return, whether it goes up in value or not. You know, that is the simplest, easiest thing to remind yourself of. Second reason we always invest in property, and it's a very simple one. The bank is going to lend you approximately 80% of the value of the asset, okay? Now, that pairs with the first one, meaning that the other people are going to pay for 80% of it over time, okay, over a 20-year period. But because the bank lends you that money, you control. Now, this is the important part to understand. I don't control a $20,000 asset if I put in 20 grand to buy a $100,000 property. I control a $100,000 asset. Now, by controlling a $100,000 asset, I get points 3 and 4 of why we invest in real estate, okay? So point 3 is I get the cash flow based on the value of the asset, not based on the cash I put in. So I'm not renting out a $20,000 house, I'm renting out a $100,000 house, if that makes sense. So 20 grand in cash, the cash flow of a $100,000 asset. Fourth reason is I get the capital gain based on the value, not the capital gain based on the cash flow I put in. So I put in 20 grand, but I'm getting capital gain based on 100,000, not capital gain based on 20,000. So these are massively important aspects behind it. Number 5 reason we invest in real estate is I can add value to the property, okay? I can add value, I can clean it up, I can get 30% gain in the value of that property. Then that's a phenomenal thing for each and every one of us to remind ourselves of. So as we look at all of these reasons for investing in real estate, it starts to lead us down the path of why we really want to do that. Reason number 6 is there are tax advantages to being a real estate investor. Same as any business. Real estate's like a business. If I invest money, if I do the right things, then I will get tax advantages for that. They're different in every country, but things like depreciating the asset, that's a paper write-off. I'm still getting the cash flow, but I'm getting a write-off for the value of the asset. Okay, so those things are very, very important. And finally, reason number 7 that I want to invest in real estate, it's a relatively low activity-based investment, meaning I don't have to do a lot of work with it, okay? I can either do very little work, meaning I can just collect the rent and handle things myself, which I don't suggest, or or I can pay someone a percentage of the rental income, a professional property manager. They will manage the property for me, and therefore I get my return by doing very little or no work, okay? I just manage it with the property manager. They do the majority of the work. So they're my top 7 reasons. There's a whole bunch of other reasons. If you read my book, The Real Estate Coach, if you read The Wealth Coach, you'll start to understand more and more and more about why this is important. Or if you go in to do my full 30X wealth training, these are the things. Understanding that, you know, we go back to the basics, and you don't have to be rich to invest, but you have to invest to be rich. You have to do that. And so the job of your business is to annually or more often create one deposit for one house. So take the business, create a deposit, therefore you do that whole thing. Fenton, good to have you on here from my hometown here in Vegas, sunny Las Vegas. Anyway, investing, big part of your future. Make sure you learn it. Make sure you study it. A number of times I see people investing their life savings without investing in knowledge. Just blows my mind. You can't do that. If you're going to invest your life savings, you need to at least understand what you're doing. So invest in knowledge first, and then invest in your life savings in creating wealth for yourself, your family, your future. Be well. See you on the next drive time. And yeah, what's your top lesson? That's how we end drive time. What is your top lesson for the day? Type in what you learned on this call, or what's the most important lesson for you. Be well.